Today I'm going to tell a real story about the haunting of the Castel Pergine. The sun was beginning to set over the mountains that surrounded Pergine Valsugana, casting long shadows across the valley. Deep in the heart of the Trentino region, Castel Pergine loomed, its ancient stone walls still standing strong despite centuries of wear. Few ventured near the castle at night. Locals whispered of its past, but the stories were often dismissed as superstition until one fateful autumn evening. Elena, a historian specializing in medieval architecture, arrived in Pergine with excitement. She had long dreamed of visiting Castel Pergine. The castle was rumored to be a treasure trove of historical artifacts, untouched by time. The air was crisp and the leaves of the surrounding trees had turned a fiery red, matching the color of the setting sun. Elena's heart raced with anticipation as she made her way through the narrow streets of the town and toward the castle perched high on the hill. The castle had been closed to the public for years, but Elena had managed to secure permission for a private tour. She had heard rumors, strange noises in the dead of night, flickering lights from within the castle, whispers that could not be explained. But she brushed them off as tales meant to stir excitement. She had work to do, and she was determined to unlock the secrets hidden within the castle's walls. Elena was greeted by a guide, an old man named Matteo, whose features were weathered with age and experience. His eyes, though, had a nervous gleam as he ushered her into the grand courtyard of the castle. "Be careful where you tread," Matteo said in a low voice. "The castle holds many secrets, some that should not be uncovered." Elena smiled politely. "I appreciate the warning, but I'm here for history, not ghost stories." Matteo simply nodded, leading her inside. The air inside the castle was heavy, stale with centuries of dust. The walls were adorned with faded tapestries, and the stone floors creaked underfoot. Elena's excitement was palpable, but it was clear from the moment they entered that something felt wrong. There was an eerie stillness in the air, as if the castle itself were holding its breath. They began their tour, moving through the castle's many rooms. The higher they climbed, the darker the corridors became, and the temperature seemed to drop. Elena could almost feel the weight of history pressing against her, but she pushed it aside, focused on the task ahead. As they reached the top floor, Matteo paused in front of a heavy wooden door. "This is the old tower. It's not part of the tour, Miss Elena. It's best left alone." Elena's curiosity piqued. "Why? What's inside?" Matteo hesitated. "This is where they say the spirits of the castle dwell. Some say it's cursed." Elena laughed softly, her scientific mind dismissing the notion of ghosts. "Spirits? Curses? That's all folklore." Without waiting for a response, Elena pushed open the door. The room was dimly lit by the last remnants of daylight filtering through a small window. The air was thick and cold, the stone walls covered in moss and lichen. In the center of the room stood an old wooden chest, covered in dust. The floor was marked with old symbols, the kind Elena had never seen before. Her heart began to race as she stepped closer to the chest. "Don't open it," Matteo's voice broke the silence. But it was too late. Elena had already lifted the heavy lid. A rush of cold air poured out from the chest, followed by an unsettling whisper, so soft at first that Elena thought it was just her imagination. But then, it became clearer. "Leave? Now?" The voice was faint, but it carried an unmistakable sense of urgency. Elena stumbled backward, her breath catching in her throat. She felt the temperature in the room plummet, and a strange, oppressive pressure filled the air. From the shadows, something seemed to stir, something that had been waiting for centuries. The whisper grew louder, more insistent. "Leave us!" The walls began to tremble, and the once still air began to swirl. Shadows twisted and flickered like living creatures, and Elena felt a cold hand brush against her neck. "Matteo!" she cried, turning to run, but the old man was gone. She was alone, trapped in the tower. A low guttural sound filled the room, a creaking, as if something ancient and heavy was awakening. The chest slammed shut on its own, and Elena heard a soft scraping noise from the walls, like something crawling beneath the stone. Then she saw them. Figures, pale, ghostly shapes, began to materialize from the shadows. Their eyes were hollow, their faces twisted in eternal anguish. Their limbs stretched unnaturally, crawling toward her with jerky, unnatural movements. They wore tattered remnants of medieval clothing, their faces twisted in torment.